as is my normal want. I'm just going to wait a minute to make sure. Yep, there we go. Everything is working. Hello, how is everyone? I hope that this finds you well. Pardon me if I'm just tinkering a little bit with the layout of what's going on my screen. Wonderful news from last week. There we go. Let's do that. That's a more interesting view. I've managed to work out how to screen share. More to the point, I discovered the issue I was having, which was that the last Mac major OS update that came out basically stopped you being able to screen share without telling the Mac OS that a specific program was allowed to take your screen. So, hence, I was having issues screen sharing because macOS was saying, no, you're not allowed to do that. I've now worked that problem out, and hey presto, we can now see my Evernote, where I'm making all of my notes. I can type, which means we'll be able to move through this more quickly. I have coffee, which means we'll get through this at all, and we're in a better state. So, hello. This is part 2 of my playthrough of 1000-Year-Old Vampire. I don't know exactly how much of this we're going to get through today. I said I was going to play the game's quick game iteration when we started last time, and I have a feeling I actually ended up starting more of a journal game because I'm excuse me, something in my eye. I'm taking much more copious notes than I expected to be. But that's kind of what I do. I like the story in games. That's the whole point of the work that I do in gaming. So, this is the continuation of that story. Just as a very quick recap, I'm not going to spend too long on this, but we began as a stonemason named Walter. He was taught by his father to be a stonemason, and he lived in a village where he was plying his trade. And one day, he had an encounter with a French aristocrat named Stéphane, who he couldn't understand but was inexplicably drawn to on a very, very deep level. And he spent time with Stéphane, and one day Stéphane had disappeared, and Walter woke up with his arm burned, and that's here, marks. My left arm is black and burned from wrist to shoulder. And different, but he didn't really know how. And it took a long time, but after a while, Walter became hungry. He'd never really eaten much, and he had this uncontrollable hunger. And he blacked out one day, and when he came to, he had killed his best friend and drained his blood. And he fled and was chased down. He managed to escape his captors, but ended up somewhere completely different to where he imagined himself being. And we have some memories here, and the memories in this game are what make up Walter. They're what make up the life. His name is now Thomas. He changed his name to help himself hide. And he's had some interesting encounters. Out of chronological order, but in order of memories. He met an imp and discovered that other non-human, mystical, occult, bizarre races exist in the form of this imp, in this particular case, who stole his mason's tools. And Walter Thomas, refers to Robert the imp as his personal nuisance. He has a coterie of savants, a specific family, descended from a priest who actually left the priesthood because he felt that the church's view of demons and other beings was too narrow, and so he wanted to find out more about them properly. So he left the church to essentially become a researcher, and he became a savant to Walter Thomas. And Walter actually uses his father's teachings. We can see the note here. Can you actually see my mouse, just out of interest? No, you can't, I don't think. That's fine. Doesn't matter. But he uses his father's teachings to keep his people in line for those very, very few, and it's very rare that somebody in the family is a little bit less enthused towards following it. Everybody is, to an extent. It's a hereditary trait in the family, it seems, to want to find out the truth. So Francis, the priest, his family became the savants. Thomas can no longer get drunk. That's a trait that he has inherited from Stefan. Also, for those who may have just watched part 1, and for those who watched part 1 with me last time around, I got confused between Stefan and Georges, the two characters who were there from France, who'd come over to England. Georges was a priest who gave Thomas a book that he has since lost, that was written entirely in French. Stefan was the aristocrat who turned him into a vampire, who was a vampire himself. And for quite some time, I was saying that Georges had turned him into a vampire and referring to the aristocrat as Georges. That was a mistake on my part. I read the name too quickly, saw the word French, and didn't bother checking the fact that I'd created 2 French characters. Anyway, I have amended that. You can see here in memory number 5 that I refer to Stefan. And the final thing that happened in the previous video was that while researching the past, Thomas came across an ancient tragedy written down from 250 years ago, or thereabouts. I think that's maybe not that far. We might be, 150, 200 years into the future of this life now, where a church had to be reconsecrated after a horrific murder took place and a local carpenter had died, which was his murder of Ralph. His best friend. So he came across that information, and the memory of what he had done returned, and he blacked out again. He woke up 3 days later, and a local banker had been found dead in a fountain in a neighbouring town, with his neck ripped open and his arm burned from wrist to shoulder. And that was where we left things off. I'm not going to go through any kind of tutorial in this video, because I'm going to assume that anybody who's watching this has watched part 1. If you haven't, and you're watching me on Twitch right now, part 1 is on YouTube. Feel free to watch along with this. It's all storytelling. There's not an awful lot that you will need to know that you won't pick up very, very quickly. But if you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, I would encourage you to go to part 1 first. I will be putting this into a playlist. Check out part 1. You'll see my tutorial on how this game works, as well as getting the first part of the story. There's about an hour of the story in that video. So, without further ado, we're going to move on. I've got my little camera in camera here, and this is going to feature both the prompts that we come across as well as my die rolls. So the last prompt that we had was this one, was 17. You commit a... Oh, is that going to work? You commit a despicable murder, but not for the sake of feeding. Why? Check a skill. Remove a mortal character if you like. So I checked the bloodthirsty skill, which I gained when I killed Ralph in similar situations. It seemed appropriate that that was the skill that was used to do the same thing now. I did not remove a mortal character, because I created the banker specifically for this, because it was more relevant to what was going on at the time. And we're going to move on from here. So here's our die roll coming up. And we roll d6 and d10, and we subtract the d6 from the d10, which is 4 minus 1 is 3. So we go from prompt 17, we're going to go on to prompt 20. And here we go. There is a great shift in the way society moves goods. How does this work to your advantage? Check a skill. Create a skill based on a memory. Okay, interesting. So, let's have a look at this, shall we? I'm so sorry. I have something, cat hair or a bit of dust in my eye that is not going away, that did not make itself apparent until I had clicked start streaming. My apologies if I need to take care of that at a couple of points. So first of all, let's have a look. Check a skill. So it needs to be a skill that is going to involve me moving around potentially, or transferring information or something more easily, because society is moving goods differently. Interesting. Jen says cat hair really does get everywhere. You are not wrong. I've been away on holiday for... When we went on our honeymoon, actually, we went away for 3.5 weeks. And 3 weeks down the line, we were still finding cat hair dug into clothes that had been washed and put straight in the suitcase. It was extraordinary. Anyway. The way society is moving goods has changed. Interesting. And I have to check a skill. Okay. Got it. I'm just looking because the day after my last stream, I copied everything into Evernote and I've forgotten Control. Okay, the shortcut for strike through. Okay, so we are going to check the skill. My hands are rough. And oops, that's not what I meant to do. Let's have a look. Which memory is this going to go in? My hands are rough. I think that's going to go in with my father's teachings. So memory number 2. Let's say as roadways improved and towns and cities grew in size, transportation of goods became not only more critical, but a much bigger industry. Carts had grown to proportions that were no longer manageable and still more needed to be transported. People city councils began carving waterways through terrain, creating great canals along which horses could pull great barges loaded with goods. My skill as a craftsman enabled me to become a part of the, what's the right phrase I'm looking for here? Controlling interest in these canals, and I used and my ability to craft, to build, helped me not only create transfer points where the levels of water changed, but also the boats themselves. I worked tirelessly. able to go longer than most, thanks to my years of training with rough materials. So there we go. Thanks to all that stonework and the training that his father had given him, those rough hands let him work long into the night. He got himself a major part of the industry, and I was able to use these waterways freely as someone who needed to test their reliability. So he's able to use those because he got into that high level of working with the canals. He was able to kind of get involved in that at a level where he didn't need to pay, he didn't need any authority to be on the canals, he had every right to be there. And so he uses them. I use them. I've got to stop doing this. It's my instinct to speak in the third person or in the singular plural and say we are doing this because I'm on stream and I want to involve you guys, but this is me. This is me. I am involved in this greatly. Okay, so, and then I have to create a skill based on a memory. I mean, it should probably be based on that memory. It's going to be... I don't need maps to travel the canals, because I know them so well. Why would I need maps? That's not necessary. All right, there we go. So, next up. That's that. Die roll. 8 minus 4 is plus 4, so we're going to go to 24. Oh, interesting. Here we go again. You are forced to adopt a new name. Why? Huh. Interesting. When did we become Thomas? Okay, we became Thomas in a memory that we have forgotten. Interesting. So, memories, just as a quick recap, can only contain 3 experiences. So if I wanted to add more to this memory here, I can't. It's full. So is memory 3. So it can either be related to our French aristocrat, Stefan. It can be related to killing people. No. Sorry. It can be related to my savant family. Or it can be related to being a stonemason and losing my tools. I think it's going to be to do with my savant family. So I'm going to say... what's the guy? Is Arthur, I think, is my current savant? Yes. Arthur had unearthed some troubling news to the effect that a certain Thomas of Essex, which is, I believe, where we were living, was a little too similar to his father and a local monastery had, oops, that's Uri, isn't it? Had petitioned the Earl to investigate. I decided the time had come for another change. And while my while shifting my appearance was easy enough, becoming familiar with my name being Edric was harder after almost 150 years as Thomas. My timeline may be a little off here. I'm not keeping... I mentioned in my last video, I'm going to be a little loosey-goosey with history, and I mean that both in terms of literal history, in the sense that I'm pretty sure I discovered Essex didn't actually exist yet at this point, but it's an alternate version of history anyway. And also in terms of my own timeline, I am not 100% certain how many years it has been. I know we did 6 score years at one point, which is 120, and I know I mentioned more than a century later my father's teachings were still affecting me, but I haven't really kept a log of exactly how far we've gone. If I'm slightly off with my timing, my apologies. That's just going to be the nature of this playthrough. Jen says, was it Essex or Mercia? I remember him fleeing to Mercia at one point. Yes, so I was born in Wessex. I fled to Mercia after I had killed Ralph, trying to get away, and then I ended up moving again at some point, and I don't think it was a part of a memory. So it's not written down here, but I remember I rewatched the video last night, and I remember saying I moved to Essex at some point, so that is where I am going to be. So, I am no longer Thomas. I am Edric. Oops. Yeah, okay. That's that. Alright, moving on. Oops. Standard roll. Dice only count if they land in the dice tray. That is going to be 6 minus 3, so we go forward 3 to 27. 27 says, wars rage throughout the region in which you reside. You withdraw into a hidden retreat, waiting for them to pass. Lose a resource. Okay. So, I still have my knapsack. I don't think that's a particularly fascinating resource to lose. I could lose my servitors of the lineage, but I actually think it would be more dramatic at this point to lose my country estate. And probably more relevant to what's going on. This is interesting. I created the country estate outside of a memory, so there isn't a memory that deals with it. Huh. I think this is a new memory. I also think that memory 3 is going to be the one that I lose, but I'm not going to lose it completely. I think this is too important. Oops. I think this is too key to what drives me right now, so I'm going to write this into a diary. So, oh, this is interesting. What's going on? Sorry if you guys are getting a little glitch here. There we go. This is going to go into a diary as memory A. So I'm going to create that diary, because I have to have the diary itself. And that's going to be a resource, I think. Technically it's not a resource, technically it's a diary. But I'm going to list it in my resources, because you can lose diaries. So diary. And you have to state what the diary is. So it could be a piece of pottery with your memories carved onto it. This is going to be... Let's say... a tapestry with abstract thoughts drawn onto it. They trigger my memories. Abstract images. They trigger my memories. So it's not a book, it's a tapestry. And the visual of the tapestry triggers the memories to be remembered. So down here, memory A. That memory is now preserved as long as I own that tapestry. If I lose it, I lose that memory forever. In addition, this is exactly, to the word, how I remember this now. It doesn't matter if there's something that is missing or if there's something that happens slightly differently. My vampire, my Edric's memory is only based upon this text. So there we go. However, memory 3 is now a new memory. When the Northmen came to England, few were concerned at first, but it became obvious that they were a persistent and numerous foe. As they made their way inland, I took the difficult decision to abandon my estate and head back to Mercia, where I had been forgotten to the inevitability of time. I could re-establish myself there, but my lodgings were smaller and much of my research had to be abandoned. And I'm going to lose my country estate. I think while the research had been abandoned, I don't think that's as big of a setback as it sounds like, because I think a lot of the research that had been abandoned, I mentioned in the last video rather flippantly that there were 50 rooms in my country estate and 48 of them were libraries. I think a lot of that research was old and has since been superseded, but that doesn't mean that this wasn't a setback. And not having that older... Why have I spelt re-establish wrong? Oh, I didn't put the second E in. Not having some of that to refer back to is still an issue. So it's impacted us for sure. Oh, I just realised that typing is behind me. There we go. Sorry. Getting this new screen layout right is interesting. And it's annoying me that are those level? No, they're not. This is irritating. Sorry, my perfectionism is coming out here, but I want the two screens to be level. There we go. I should have done this before we started. Sorry. Okay, so there we go. I have withdrawn to my hidden retreat to wait for the Vikings to pass by. I am aware that that is chronologically out of time, I think. That's fine. I have no problem with that. All right, moving on. 6 minus 4, we go on 2, so we are going on to 29. 29 says... Well, actually I should have created a resource at that point. Mercia Home. I'm just going to call it, because I'm about to lose it anyway, based on that role, but I should have created something for my home, because my home is a stationary resource and is important to me. 29 says, you are exposed as a monster and flee to a far-off land. Lose any stationary resources. You do not know the language of this new place. How do you overcome this obstacle? What new name do you take? So there we go. Edric didn't last very long. This is actually going to be part of Memory 3 as well. Because... I'm exposed as a monster. Oh, I did not... I realize I did not list these characters as immortals. The reason I'm saying that is I'm considering a jump in time here, in which case Arthur is probably going to die and be replaced by the next generation. Actually, we're not going to know what happened to Arthur. I am going to lose my... that would have been stationary. The reason I'm making sure I still write stationary, and you can regain resources. Theoretically, it would be possible for me to do that. So I'm just making sure that I've marked it correctly before I strike it out. I'm going to lose that. Alright. Mercia may have forgotten me. But Robert the Imp had not. He arranged for just enough evidence against me to be found that I was recognized as the monster from the church killings in the history books. I fled and was pursued relentlessly. Let's say... I'm just trying to think where I'm going to go. Oh, I know exactly where I'm going to go. I'm going to go... Sorry, I'm just checking. I'm not doing a lot of research into this, but there's one thing I want to check. Map of... Yes. I fled to the Northumbrian coast and stole a boat. I sailed through several nights and days before reaching land. I had intended to cross to the island just off. To the north. Let's say, yeah, I'd intended to cross to the north. To the Danish lands, but was blown off course and landed on a desolate island, on a desolate land, populated by people whose language I could not speak. I used a base process of imagery akin, I can't type today, imagery akin to my tapestry diary painting to communicate until I gradually began to learn a few words. They mispronounced my name. I've put an extra U in there, haven't I? They mispronounced my name as Eric, and so I became known. Okay, so I'm no longer Edric. I am now Eric. In fact, I said probably Eric with a K. Because, ironically, I have fled the Northmen to find the Northmen. Or at least the community of Northmen that found Iceland. I was trying to get to Scotland, which was Danish at one point. Or considered Danish, I believe. And I did not succeed particularly well. I was blown off course and I found Iceland instead. And so here I am. And I can't speak Norse, but I'm getting there. Alright. Roll. Go, we're going slowly. 4 minus 2 is 2. I say we're going slowly. I don't feel like there's a particular speed inherent in this game, which is one of the things I like about it. You just never quite know where you're going to end up. You fall into a deep slumber for 100 years. Strike out any mortal characters. Well, that's reasonable. I only have one, which is Arthur. This is interesting. So memory 2 is full up. Memory 3 is all about fleeing to Mercia. I don't think that's relevant. Memory 4 is full up. Memory 5 is about Stefan. Memory 1 is about my tools and my stonemasonry. None of these is relevant. I think I'm going to have to create another new memory. Unless I can force something in. Can I force something in? Oops. I don't want to keep creating new memories because there's definitely places to fit stuff in, but I think this one's going to be another one. If I have fallen into a slumber for 100 years, is that by choice? I don't know if that's by choice. I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to take out I Understand Stone. I have not been instructed to strike a skill. I'm choosing to do so in this case, because I think it's interesting. I'm going to actually put this here as part of Memory 1. Despite having no tools, I built myself a moderate accommodation on the mysterious island that I discovered the locals called Iceland. My craft served me well, and I was able to borrow tools from the villagers of less quality than my own, but sufficient. It was a task I set myself to for 2 full years. I would make a home for myself on this island, no matter how temporary it might end up being. Once complete, I realized that I required time, not only for thinking, but to give the situation in my homeland time to settle, in the hopes I might return there. I slept the deep sleep of the undying, and dreamed not once in the century I remained in darkness. There we go. And Arthur is dead. I was wondering if there was going to be a world where we came back from Iceland a little bit sooner than that and found him still alive, but nope. It was not to be. Okay. Next roll. 1 minus 4. So that's -3. So we go back to 28. Ooh! A long-dead mortal character returns. What do they want from you? How have they survived death? You only recognize them if you still have a related memory. Check a skill. Whoa. Well, that's different. And this is really interesting. I still recognize... I only recognize them if I still have a related memory. Which means if I forget something in order to write this memory, that I don't still have. So... Robert is in this one. He's immortal, so he's irrelevant. My father is in this one. That's a possibility. He's certainly been dead for a long time. That's just Robert again. That's Francis and Ralph. And Arthur. Although Arthur isn't... Well, I guess 100 years is long dead. Or 80 years, or however long it's been. And this is only about Stefan. So it's got... If I actually want to recognize them, it's got to be Arthur, Francis, Ralph, or my father. Or it could be Georges. It could be the French priest. Because he died very early on. So who's dead? Oh, or Elena. We never found out what happened to Elena. Oh, decisions. I don't know who to bring back. Let's say... Oh, right, there's also... Right, because Ralph would be here. I knew I'd saved him. Oh, I just realized I took the same name as the banker. That's fine. Ralph would be here because I'd saved his memory. I'm going to bring back... This is going to be part of my sleep memory. I think. Where did I just put that? Oh, that was here. Right, so it can't be part of the sleep memory because I'm going to run out of it. Pardon my thought, my time thinking, but this is such a fascinating prompt, and I'm trying to work out what to do with it. Arthur is, I don't think, important enough. It could be his father. My father. But I think one of these two would be more interesting. Elena or Ralph. We never found out what happened to Elena. They both saved our life. Jen says, no pardon necessary. It's live entertainment and thought processes are fascinating in and of themselves. Fair, but I also don't want dead air for too long. You know, that's not good form, but this is just so intriguing. I think bringing one of these two... I mean, I could bring back Georges. Georges had very little purpose. He gave me a book that we've since lost. But I feel like he gave us a driving force as well, of sorts. Because he hinted that it was going to be valuable if we were a good Mason, which we have become. I have become. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to bring back... Yeah. Okay, I just need to work out which memory it's going into. Yeah, I'm going to bring back Elena. And I'm going to bring her back. This is fleeing. Yeah, I'm going to have to create a new memory. I'm going to forget this memory, and I'm actually going to inscribe it in my diary, because I think the memory of the Savant family is also important to recall. So, I awoke from my long sleep to find Elena had not only tracked me down and come to Iceland, but was still alive more than 200 years since I last saw her. This happened do I still have that memory? Yes. Ah, right, it's the one I just saved. So this, we lost track of Elena, I believe, here, where Robert had confused things, I'd gone to meet Francis, and all the mortal characters died. Quote unquote. At that point. So, do I remember Elena? No, I don't. Scrap that. I woke from my long sleep to find a woman standing in one of the libraries of my home. She explained that she had known me a long time ago, and that she had tracked me down to Iceland. Try as I might, I could not recall her, or bring her name to memory. She said she had once been known as Elena, but now went by the name of Judith. She told me she existed solely due to a curse placed on her by a witch in her homeland of Wessex. She had not believed in witches and gave the curse no thought until she was accused of being one for not aging. She had lost track of me, but heard from a long dead man named Arthur that I had sailed somewhere. And not having found me anywhere in England, I should say, she learned that the Norse men had, or the Northmen, I guess they still would be, had found an island to the northwest and came looking for me there. Okay, check a skill. I know demons exist. I'll add to that, while I did not recall her, I believed her story and added witches to the menagerie of, no, that's the wrong word. I don't mean menagerie, to the just to the list of, quote, otherworldly creatures I knew now to be real. Quote, otherworldly, because clearly they're not. Alright. Well, that's interesting. Elena still lives, but we don't remember her at all. I don't remember her at all. Curious. Where is this going? So witches are a thing now. Oh. 6 minus 6, 0. So we stay where we are. So 28, but the second. The second prompt. What peril do they pull down upon you? Create a new enemy character, mortal or immortal. Check a skill or lose a resource. Whew. Okay, I'm just going to carry straight on. I know where this is going. It wasn't long. Judith. Oh, I need to bring... Right. So, Judith... what is she? She's not a lich, because she didn't search for this herself. She's also not a zombie. There's probably a word for someone who's kept alive. I don't know if there's a word for that. I should do. Well, I'm going to create one. She is a necroth. Kept alive by a witch's curse. Immortal. And we're going to create we're going to create Elizabeth, a witch based in Mercia. She cursed Judith. Immortal. Not immortal because she's a witch, but she is immortal. We'll discover what that means in due course, because I don't know yet. So, Judith stayed with me, and we talked long into the night of our experiences of those beings we had previously believed to be only the denizens of story. It wasn't long before the house was surrounded by ravens. When the first two had arrived, the Northmen believed that we were under the protection of their god, Odin. But when more came, they became afraid and abandoned their village. Judith said they were the spies of Elizabeth, the witch. And the further the thing was from her that she was spying on, the more birds she required to see clearly. See in quote marks. Excuse me. When the cracks began to appear in the ceilings, I knew it was time to flee, and Judith and I ran desperately, trying to keep out of sight of the ravens whenever possible. Okay, and I'm going to check a skill or lose a resource. I'm going to check I don't need maps to travel the canals. No, I'm not. That's too specific. I can't. I'm going to do firm teacher, because I think I have been teaching Judith of a much wider world than she knows. and I could maybe even teach her a little bit about what could theoretically be possible if this keeps happening. I think that's a reasonable skill to check at this point. The interesting thing is I'm now running low on skills. I only have 2 left, which might mean I have to check one of those at a point that really is not desirable for me. Okay. Well, there we go. So I have a very angry witch looking into why I am harboring the thing that she has created, this Necroth. All right, where are we going? 8 minus 4, so we go forwards 4 to 32. You keep a prisoner. Why this particular person? Why don't you feed on them? Create a character and a skill related to keeping them captive. Interesting. Okay. This is going to be... This is going to be... Oh, yeah. That will work. This is going to be Etienne. A French... a French Fletcher who works for Stefan. That's going down here. Judith and I had barely made it back to England when we came under attack. I assumed that it was another of the witch's plans. At first. We were in the countryside, traveling by night, when a flurry of flaming arrows fell around us. Fortunately, none hit, and I was able to capture the man responsible. A Frenchman named Etienne. I went to kill him, but in what would have been his last words, otherwise unintelligible French, I heard the name Stefan. I stopped short and instead learned to control my urge upon biting an individual, and used the pain inflicted to attempt to elicit something I could understand. I had to understand, I had to comprehend, just so I'm not repeating myself, why I was being hunted by someone who knew the thing that had created me. Alright, there we go. So I've created the character. I need a skill related to keeping them alive. I'm going to have... I can use my... No. I know how to cause pain without killing. So basically, I've learned torture. That's probably not a wonderful trait to have, but there we go. I'm going to change this slightly. He knows Stefan. Yeah, that'll do. For anyone who doesn't know, by the way, a Fletcher makes... they specialize in... The fletching of an arrow is the feathers at the end. So they specialize in arrow making. It's a slightly less common word these days. So there we go. All right, where to next? 9 minus 4, so we go forward 5 from 32 to 37. Oh, this one's interesting. Things fall to dust. Lose a resource for which you have no corresponding memory. Do not create a new experience for this prompt. It simply happens as you stare in silence. Okay. Lose a resource for which I have no memory. Well, I have the servitors of the lineage saved in my diary. I could lose the diary, I suppose. I've been fleeing, but I think I would guard that a little more closely. I think it would take more than running away. So I think I lose the knapsack. Because my memory of working with little food has been long forgotten. It's not a lot, but it is a part of my history. It's a part of who I was. And I think that it's a small thing, but it's one of the very, very last vestiges that I have of who I grew up as. I've lost my tools. I've lost everybody I knew when I was young. I don't remember Judith being Elena, even though she's still here. I don't have anything anymore of when I was young, and I think that's the last fragment. That and the fact that I still remember my name. I still know that I was Walter when I was born at this point, although that may not last much longer. And it's a small thing, but I think it is perhaps that last little ounce of true humanity has gone. There we go. All right. 9 minus 5, I go forward another 4, so 41. Ho! Your body is distant from human concerns. Lose a memory slot. Erase your oldest extant name. Well, that sucks. I mean, I only have one name. I guess while I've been checking my names as I get new ones, but I guess technically I haven't really lost them. I've just adopted additional ones. So maybe I've been doing that slightly wrong. Tim Hutchings, the designer, was in my last video, and he didn't correct that per se, but I think that would be what this indicates, is that perhaps I actually have lost Walter as a name. I'm also going to lose a memory slot, and I think it's going to be memory 1. But I lose a memory slot. Now, unless I'm very much mistaken, that means I can only have 4 memories from now on. Damn. So, I can lose... I mean, I guess if I'm losing my name anyway, it would make sense to lose this memory. Because that is my oldest existing name, and so losing the same memory would make sense. This one is about my father, but it doesn't actually mention my name at any point. This is about my crafting skills and canals. This is about the Northmen attacking England and finding Northmen elsewhere. That's my most recent name. This is about Judith and doesn't really have any... Like, we've clearly just ignored the past. And this is about Stefan. So I think this memory goes. So this memory is just done. Technically, I don't think you save these the way that I'm doing down here. This is more for kind of down the line curiosity at the end of the game to see what's happened and to understand it. This memory slot is now gone. And so I'm just going to renumber these. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I no longer have a memory 5. And I don't know I was Walter anymore. I don't remember that name. I am going to keep the file named Walter, because if I do another one of these down the line, I'm going to keep this, and this is the Walter file, but that is now a file name, not my name. If that makes any sense to you. Jen says, keeping the memories saved helps if one wants to adapt their playthrough into a novel. It's kind of tempting the way this keeps going. It's such an extraordinary story. I don't know if I will do that. Maybe I will. It would be fun. Anyway, there we go. Okay. That was more of an instruction than anything that gives an experience. I don't think I have an experience of forgetting something. That would seem a little counterproductive. Alright, 4 minus 2. So we go forward to 43. You have archaic ways in spite of your focus on blending in. Create a resource based on a checked skill that reflects this. And this is why you don't delete skills. You check them, you mark them off, because they could come back and they could be referenced. I have archaic ways in spite of my focus on blending in. Create a resource based on a checked skill that reflects this. Based on a checked skill. I mean, interesting skills to do something with would be, I know demons exist, perhaps I understand stone. Create a resource based on a checked skill. Interesting. Alright, that resource is going to be... This one's interesting as well. This is so thought-provoking. That is going to be... Let's go with... It's going to be based on I know demons exist. And it is going to be... It's going... Ah, I know exactly what it's going to be. Uh, right, we're going to create the Libris Daemonica. I have no idea if my Latin is solid there. Probably not. A book written in Old English. With Judith's help, I began once again my endless work of chronicling and cataloguing the creatures we had discovered to exist. I wrote with a quill pen, preferring the feel of the feather between my fingers. And the paper under my wrist to the recently invented mechanism of the printing press. Printing press was invented in the mid-1400s, so I think by this point, I was born in 1032, we're probably a good solid 400 years on at this point. The book. I had a blank book made with 250 pages. We only filled 24 at this time, but I had a sense that it would not be long before we began to complete the rest. Okay, there we go. I'm back at it. 5 minus 1, we're going... Oh, no, 1 minus 5, we're going back 4 to 39. Ooh. Age has damaged your diary. Strike out 3 nouns from the memories in your diary, starting from the oldest entry. If you have no diary, do this to the first 3 nouns in a memory of middling age. Well, I do have a diary. 3 nouns. So here's my... Strike out 3 nouns from the memories in your diary, starting from the oldest entry. Well, I don't remember tools anymore. I remember Ralph made me a mallet, but I don't remember anything else. Why does it think of is a wrong word? Strange. I don't remember the word carpenter anymore. I don't know what Ralph did. I'm not sure if the way this is being written, if I'm supposed to do it from different memories based on that. I mean, supposed to do. I do whatever I wish, essentially. I'm going to do it all from the first memory, because I just think that this is the older memory, and it's going to be the part that is going to be more easily damaged. I'm going to find it more difficult if I want to understand who Eric was that died He was found in a neighbouring town, but I don't remember who he was anymore. So it might be a little harder for me to... I think this would go in here. The crossing back from Iceland had been frantic, as stealthy as we could make it, but not as comfortable or as pleasant. And not as comfortable or as pleasant, I guess. It was a while before I truly noticed it, but my diary had become water damaged. As I moved it from place to place in my new home, several parts of the imagery had flaked away before I realized what was happening, and sealed the remainder against a glass screen to protect it. Okay, that's that. It's also worth noting my now 4 memories are all full, which means whatever happens next, I'm going to have to move one of them either to my diary or just forget it entirely. 7 minus 1 is 6, so we go from 39 to 45. Ooh, your body is undergoing further corruption and change. When do you first notice these new changes? Create a mark. Okay. I'm going to forget this memory, I think. And I'm not going to transfer it to my diary, I'm just going to transfer it down to the forgotten memories. There we go. Okay, memory 1 is a new memory. It became clear that I still had a lot to learn, not only about the creatures of our world, but also about myself and my own condition. My nails, which had consistently broken off as they grew, or occasionally being filed down by myself if required, became hard as stone and grew in. Firm, extending out more from the center of the nail, slowly becoming claws. I was forced to begin wearing gloves whenever I was out in society. In order to hide their nature. Rapidly, I realized linen and cloth were not enough, and I lined all my gloves with leather. Mark, I have claws instead of nails. I wear gloves to compensate. Jen says, how many prompts are there total? I can't remember if it was mentioned in the first stream. There are a lot. There is a second batch of prompts that they suggest using once you have familiarized yourself with the prompts that are in the game and played it 2 or 3 times. But in the base set, I won't scroll to it now because I'm just using the Apple Books program and it's a bit rubbish. But in the base set that are laid out like this, there are 80. More than one of those prompts can end the game. So you don't have to get to prompt 80 for the game to be finished. I don't know how many of them, though. Obviously, there are 2 per page, and 79 and 80 both end the game, so I'm assuming more than that will do the same thing. And then there is an additional batch of prompts after that, if you get to that point and would like to use them. Okay, so that was 45. 5 minus 3... yes, 5 minus 3 is 2, so we're on to 47. Oh, was I supposed to do anything else? Created a mark. Okay. The world has evolved in ways you cannot comprehend, causing you to lose a good amount of wealth. What happened? Check a skill, create a skill that will hopefully prevent this happening again, and lose a resource. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, I'm going to clear away memory 2. And I feel no great urging to remember my time in Iceland long term, so I'm going to make that a memory down here. Boop. Okay, so when trade truly began to open up to the world rather than to our immediate neighbors, which we had considered to be the world for so long, things changed. Suddenly, gold and silver were not the valuable goods that they had been. Now it was spices. Fabrics, and a mysterious powder that caused great light and sound. My store of precious metal became worthless. Became all but worthless by comparison. And I was forced to use 5 times as much to purchase something as simple as a pair of boots or a drink. I used most of what was left to drink. For it was perhaps the only thing that I could still use that wealth for, that seemed of value to me at the time. A distant memory of returning home anything but sober seemed to taunt me now in my inability to reach that state. I cannot get drunk has now been crossed off. Seems somewhat appropriate. Create a skill to prevent this happening again. I have diversified. No. I know to diversify the goods I invest in. That seems like a good skill. And I lose a resource. Crap. So I either have to lose... Well, I mean, I'm wondering if I should have lost the servitors of the lineage, because I haven't had contact with them for so long. Or I lose my diary. Or I lose the Libris Demonica. The problem is, none of those really imply wealth. I mean, books, to a certain extent, would still, especially a handwritten book, would still be a precious object. Money hasn't really been a thing in this story, and so I never created a financial resource. This is garbage to anybody except me. And this is not something... It's valuable in a way that is not financial. I think I'd have to lose the... I'm a little bit perplexed by this one, because I truly don't know what to lose. I'm actually going to cross this out. I'm going to say I lost the servitors of the lineage already, because I think I just haven't had contact with them for so long. I don't think that right now they are relevant. I might find them again. If I was desperate for money, would I sell a tapestry if fabric is becoming valuable? Would paper be a part of that? That would lose my memories? Or would I sell a book? I actually think I would consider my research to be more important than my own memories. Which means I have now forgotten that I ever had tools and that I was ever really a stonemason almost. I've forgotten killing Ralph. I've forgotten killing the blacksmith. Not the blacksmith, sorry. What am I talking about? I've forgotten killing the banker. And I've forgotten that I had the servitors of the lineage. Which, I mean, that kind of seems appropriate in a way. Because it's been so long since I spoke with them. So there we go. I've lost my diary. Huh. I didn't see that one coming. Considering my research to be of the utmost importance, I sold the only other thing I had of any value. My own diary as a piece of bizarre artwork that fortunately found an interested party. Oops, what did I just do? I don't know. Yeah, that's bizarre and not at all what I was expecting to have happen. Alright, well, let's go on. Oops. 7 minus 1 is 6, so we go from 47 to 53. A mortal character you trusted, or one of their descendants, leads a hunting party. What shared secrets are being used against you? Check a skill. Well, I know exactly where this one's going. It's going here, because this is about me being a bit more monstrous. Murmurs of a hunt for the monster who had lived hundreds of years, who went by the name of Edric or Thomas, reached my ears. A petition had even been taken to who? To the King of England to initiate a grand hunt for the beast. In evidence, several hundred books had been submitted that consisted of research into a wide variety of beings, including extensive chapters on Edric Thomas's condition. Um, while vulnerabilities were not detailed, they were hinted at. And a variety of strange sounding methods of distraction or destruction were being suggested, from hanging fishing nets to keep the monster busy, to using only pure silver to attack. Check a skill. I know how to cause pain without killing. I interrogated Etienne about this, now able to understand some of what he said. And he told me that Stefan had triggered a vendetta against me because I was working to publicly uncover the existence of so many species. Okay. Well, that sucks. My own... Alright. Let's have... Can't think of a good name right now. Gareth. A descendant of Arthur, now leading a witch hunt against me. Alright, so my own servitors have turned against me and are now trying to hunt me down using my own research. That's bad. That's real bad. I didn't see that one coming. Alright. This one, maybe the next one, are probably going to be my last prompts for today. And I will continue this story next week. You have the troublemaking character at your mercy. Record an experience of forgiveness. Okay. Interesting. All right. Let's go for that. It was... For 5 years, I played a cat and mouse game with the hunt. I gave up feeling settled, since every time I did, they would catch up to me again. Instead, I quietly studied them, their organization, and their resources. Eventually, I learned that Gareth, a descendant... I don't remember I had servitors, do I? No. Of the... A descendant of a family dedicated to understanding and rooting out evil was at the head of the initial troublemaking organization, troublemaking group. While he had lost control of the hunt a long time ago, he still had influence amongst those who understood me and my existence the best. I snuck... Is snuck a word? It's so... Can you actually... Yes, it is. Okay. It's one of those weird things. I keep hearing people say I snuck into things, but it makes me think of somebody saying I laid there. Which of course is wrong. And I keep feeling like snuck is wrong, but it is a word. Okay. I snuck into his home one night and cornered him. I didn't capture him, I just cornered him. I explained my mission. And while I was unable to provide details, for they were long forgotten to me, I told him that I was trying to uncover the true extent of what humans called the supernatural, and to catalogue it for the purposes of peace, safety, and understanding. I told him that I understood his cause and his reasons, and begged him to work with me instead of against me. Yeah. I think that'll work. So I think I'm going to bring the servitors of the lineage back as a resource. It's not telling me to do that, but I'm going to choose to do so, and I'm going to add a caveat that they are now covert. Not that they weren't before, but now it's really a secret. Now it's really a secret organization. Okay, this will be my final prompt for today. 0 minus 3, so that's 10 minus 3 is 7, so we are going to go on to experience 60, prompt 60. Check a skill to avoid arrest as a criminal. What happened? Who was arrested in your place? Create a mortal character if necessary. Wow, how do these skills involve... Okay, yep, let's do this. I know how to diversify the goods I invest in. That'll be part of this, I guess. I had begun a program of no, let me rephrase that. Let me restart that. I had begun to trade on the black market. as my expenses for my research and the maintenance of both my coterie and its required secrecy increased, I was forced to find ways to supplement my wealth. I went from trading in fabrics, dyes, and spices to moving government-controlled gunpowder and illegal narcotics. I stayed small enough to avoid the attention of the authorities for a long time, until Matthew, one of my shipmen who transported the goods around the canals, became disgruntled, failed to convince me to give him more money, and reported me to the authorities. To the Earl. Sad to be betraying. No, I'm not sad to be betraying anybody. I knew he had to be taken care of, and I crept into his home one night, planting a supply of opium there. I convinced the Earl's men of my innocence, and so Matthew began to throw around the word vampire, with the Earl being a very pragmatic man, gave this no credence and instead investigated Matthew, as I knew he would. Matthew was arrested for having the opium, but I had to dismantle my opium operation, as Matthew knew too much. Okay, so I'm going to create a character. That character is going to be Matthew. A sailor who transported, I'm going to create it as who transports opium for me, arrested. I'm also going to create resources, black market gunpowder ring. As that is, I realize my fallacy in not having created anything wealth-oriented sooner, because I think wealth is something that is always important in life, and therefore it is probably important that it is considered. I'm also going to cross out I'm just going to cross out that much. Because he's still a descendant of Arthur, obviously. But he is not leading a witch hunt against me. Excuse me, sorry. Need more coffee. No more coffee. Oh. Just enough. I'm going to leave things there. Jen says, oh my, Walter Thomas Edric Eric has certainly gone rogue, hasn't he? Yes, he has. In ways I was not expecting. So, with that being the state of mind that we're in right now, that's going to be our cliffhanger. I'm now running a black market gunpowder ring, and trying to continue my research into these weird existences that I've discovered, like imps and witches, and goodness only knows what else is going on. We'll find out next week. I am going to leave it there because I need to get on with things. I would love to keep going, but I have stuff to do. I will pick this back up again. I'm going to do the same thing I did this week. Maybe not do a Friday because I did a stream yesterday. I might not do a Friday, Saturday again, but I will do, probably my next stream will be a board game of some description, and the stream after that will be the continuation of this from prompt 60. So it's worth noting, because you're rolling d6 and d10 and you subtract the d6 from the d10, there is a greater chance that you will move forwards than backwards, as far as probability goes, which means we are beginning to creep towards. I suspect that the next part will be the end of Eric's story. But who's to say? I might roll a bunch of high numbers on the d6 and low numbers on the d10, and we'll end up going backwards a few times. But there we go. This is how it carries on. So that was part 2 of 1,000-Year-Old Vampire. I hope that you guys are enjoying this. I'm getting a real kick out of this story. It's quite an extraordinary game, and it's what it's bringing out of me is so fascinating to me, I think. As for me and what I do, Once Upon a Die is a podcast and a Twitch stream. The podcast has been on hiatus for a very long time. It was about to come back. It probably would have come back 2 weeks into lockdown, or maybe a month into lockdown, but obviously that all kind of changed the nature of things. It stopped me dead because I had to put everything on hold to sort out things that had gone wrong. I have a couple of things that I do for day jobs, and one of them is very theatre oriented, so I had to put everything on hold and fix all of the theatre gigs that got cancelled and moved and all that sort of thing. So I had to put everything on hold for that. So the podcast hasn't come back yet, but it is going to. That podcast is called Once Upon a Die, so please do check that out wherever you get your podcasts from. In addition, there is this Twitch stream. If you are watching this on Twitch right now and you're not following me, please do so. I would really appreciate it. If you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, please head over to twitch.tv/Once Upon a Die. You can see it right here in my my links there. My link tree also has a clickable link to it. Please do go over to Twitch and follow me. If you're watching this on Twitch right now, please go to YouTube and follow me. I don't have a YouTube link yet that is not 1 million characters long. You need 100 subscribers on YouTube before you hit that point. And so just search D.A. Xavier, spelt with an X, obviously, or Once Upon a Die on YouTube, and find some videos there and subscribe to me there. That would be lovely. In addition, you can find me on Patreon. If you would like to join the Once Upon a Die community, please head over to patreon.com/Once Upon a Die, and I would love it if you would support me there. I set up a few ideas and things like that I will kick in once I have a few patrons. I do have one already, which is the lovely Jen, who is commenting in chat over on Twitch. She has been supporting me, and I would love for some more people to jump in and really create a community there so that I can engage with you guys on a more personal level as well. It would mean a lot to me to be able to sort of start doing that kind of thing. So if you would like to head over there and join up, please do. If not, that's absolutely fine too. You know, just follow my work. This is something I do for the love of it. I would like to make it more of a thing if it becomes viable for me to be able to do so. But I also just do it because I love doing it. And that's where I'm going to leave things for now. So once again, this has been 1,000-Year-Old Vampire. designed by Tim Hutchings. I didn't mention it earlier. It's available as a print and play. You can just purchase the print and play, or you can actually purchase a hardback book. Obviously, I'm using the print and play right now. I am going to get a copy of the book at some point. And I recommend you check it out if you like what you've been seeing here, because it is entirely content that, other than these short prompts, is generated by you, the player. And it's a really, really satisfying way of playing this game. I'm loving it. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching today. I hope that you've enjoyed this. I hope you will join me again for part 3 sometime next week. And I hope that you guys are safe and healthy and keeping well. And I will leave you there, and I will catch you again next time I am online. For now, keep rolling those dice until the game is done. Have a good day.